Good evening, I'm Amy Robinson. Welcome to Ask the Specialist. Tonight we ask the Realtors on CMU Public Television.
Amy, will you like your mic? Stand by.
Welcome to Ask the Realtors, the program where your questions fuel our conversation. And please feel free to give us a call to ask questions about real estate this evening on CMU Public Television. Let me welcome our guests. First, welcome to Paula Arndt with Weichert Realtors Broadway Realty. Welcome.
Thank you.
And also joining us tonight, Jim Parsons. Hi, Jim, from Century 21 Bowerman Peak Realty.
How you doing?
All right, well, let's clarify for just a moment that our guests are interested in talking about real estate, not so much rentals. So if you can confine your questions to buying and selling homes, they'd be happy to answer your questions. So let's start out with what these days has become an elephant in the room, and that is the federal government shutdown. I bring that up not as a political issue, but I'm wondering how it impacts the housing market and your job today, and more importantly, how does it affect buyers and sellers?
It is very important, and what just took place a couple days ago does have an impact on what's happening in our market because of the fact that most of the loan programs, if they are not cash financed or conventional loans, will be attached to what's called a 4506T, which is a transcript that is requested from the banks, and they have to go online to do so with the IRS. But with that said, right now there's no bodies there, so they can't respond. So it's going to pause some things, slow, but at the same time, it's still going to not stop what our industry is doing.
So let me ask you to clarify a little more. So would we look at VA or FHA? Which loans are likely to be affected and which not so much so?
VA is directly funded, so VA, welcome, open all day long. Those will continue, yes, absolutely. FHA, they do need case numbers, so they will actually start the process, but it will end up getting paused once they ask for the transcripts and the appraisal gets ordered. So it's going to be a little bit slower, but once everything's up and running again, hopefully very soon, the process will continue.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Yes.
Now, as the government is shut down at the moment, fortunately the economy is opening up a little bit more, and I understand you're seeing that in the housing market. So, Jim, give me a sense for how things are out there right now.
Well, if you take the National Association of Realtors, they just gave a report, just came out with a report. A year ago at this time, the average home price in August, I think, was the average home price in August was like $105,000, and today the average home price was $113,000. So, and again, from July to August this year, it also has went up maybe a percentage point, and also each month is going up a percentage point or two. So I think that the average prices are increasing. But not not leaps and bounds, but it's
Right.
Everything counts, and it's getting better.
What are you seeing now in terms of the inventory of foreclosures?
Again, the national
Yeah.
the national report that I'm going off from stated that it just went down 3 percentage points, which is good. So you have less distressed properties, and actually the investors buying went up 1 percentage point, and this is in the last month. So you're seeing less foreclosures, short sales, distressed properties, and still the investors are still out there sticking money. A lot of them are cash buyers, so that is good.
One of the things I'll just tag on with that is most of those foreclosure properties are listed. So we get a lot of calls to our office asking, do you have a list? We do not have a list. They are listed through our local MLS. So that's
Right.
important for them to understand that.
And while you're seeing fewer foreclosures, and that's certainly good news, let me ask you this, Paula, are there still good deals to be had?
There are great deals out there. But it's like anything else. I think the most important thing that the person has to realize is once they bid online and they might receive that, award that bid, they do need to still do their due diligence. they need to have the inspections done because it is buyer beware.
Okay, very good. Let's go to some of our phone calls, and we invite you to join us tonight on Ask the Realtors and ask your questions on today's housing market. We have a question from Johannesburg. What is the selling percent realtors get for vacant acreage?
As far as percentages,
It's a tough question to
Yeah.
answer because it would violate, each brokerage has their own policy,
Right.
and regionally in the area and locally. But I mean, it varies from state to state, so you could shop that around.
Okay, and that's something, could they call on the phone and talk to you about that? Is that something that can be discussed in that manner?
Absolutely.
yes.
Okay, very
Yes.
good. From Lake Orion, if I add a pool with waterfalls and such in my backyard, how much will that increase my property value?
I think you need to stay there and enjoy it yourself. Because seriously, I mean, pools, waterfalls, it's more for you. And if you want to do any increases to increase in your value, I guess, you might want to consider doing remodeling to your bathroom or to your kitchen. Those are your two biggest, you'll receive back on, absolutely.
Bathrooms and kitchens,
Yes.
I always hear those are the two big ones.
Yes.
What are some of the common improvements people do that maybe they think will have a good return, like for example a pool or a waterfall, and it really isn't perhaps what they're hoping for?
A lot of times I see, people will say, well, I just put a new roof on, or I just put a new, furnace in.
Right.
Now, those are more maintenance issues, new windows. I mean, there's some things that will add value to it, but windows and roofs and furnaces are more of a maintenance than adding value to the house.
Okay.
Square footage, basements, finishing basements, that would add value to the house
Okay.
or home.
Very good. From Troy, we hear the question, do you save more money than redoing your home or moving to another home that fits your needs? There's a lot of wiggle room on this one, but give me some examples of what you've seen or some thoughts this person might want to consider.
I think it really just depends on where are they at with their mortgage. And do they have equity in their house where they can turn around and sell it? And if they're looking to downsize, there's a lot of different things that they need to look into prior to making that decision to sell. So, number one, find out what their needs are. And is it something that they want to be smaller because the children are all out of college, they've moved on and it's just the two of them? So it really just depends on their situation.
I'm curious what you see in terms right now of trends. Are people generally looking for bigger homes? Are they looking for smaller, more cost-efficient homes? I have no doubt it depends on a number of factors, including family size, but are you seeing any trends in what people seem to be looking for?
Gal, I don't know. I mean, I'm seeing everything. It depends. We're in a Y generation, which is a little bit more, techie oriented. And so you've got a lot of people on the internet, a lot of people actually purchasing their homes by looking on the internet and then
Internet's
making their
big.
decision, okay, do I want to narrow it down to 5 homes when they've looked at 30? And that's what I'm seeing a lot is happening out there.
And when you talk about people who are more techie now, we hear about broadband expansion. And we hear people looking for that sometimes before they decide to move to a particular area. Do you get these questions, and how does that play into a person's decision from what you've experienced?
For sure. When I first started in real estate, they didn't have when you're searching, and you can break these down in many ways, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, square footage, those kind of things, location. But we never had a field for like Wi-Fi or internet or cable internet, and those are all fields that we can search by now. And buyers do ask that, for their jobs and just for, for home use.
Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of putting you guys on the spot because we hadn't discussed this in advance, and we do have more calls coming in we're going to get to in just a moment. But what do you expect then in the future moving forward? Just what, more tech focus, or any trends that you're thinking that you kind of have your eye on that maybe people are going to be watching for?
We just came from the Michigan Association of Realtors convention here at Soaring Eagle in Mount Pleasant. And the biggest thing that I've seen is the day of faxing contracts back and forth is, now I scan an email, but there's going to, it's already there, and I'm not the techie person, but now you can, do all this digitally, send it to your buyer, send it to Paula, at the same time, have your buyer, sign on your iPad, iPhone, and
Yeah.
you don't need these wet signatures, and then it never has to be printed, and these signatures uphold. So I see that coming real soon. It's already here.
Yeah.
And how has technology impacted the turnaround time? I find a home I like.
Oh my goodness.
I take a look at it. You walk me through it, and I say, "This is the one." Barring any unexpected, hiccups, how quickly can I expect to be in that house?
Well, that's a process. Okay, once again, as far as the paperwork is concerned, you're going to do the paperwork a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But you still, if it's not cash, you're still going to have your own hurdle with the banks. So it just depends. And then once again, it has to do with how much you're putting down. So
Yeah.
that all has a bearing on to it.
You still have the inspection process, the appraisal process,
Yep.
the underwriting process, all of that. 30 to 45 days, somewhere in there.
And let's talk about appraisals, because you're telling me they've changed considerably in recent years.
They have.
Yes. Right now, and I know Jim's dealing with this as well as myself and the rest of the markets here, is they are ordered through management companies. And so you do not know who is going to be appraising your property that you might have now under contract. You pretty much get a phone call if you're the listing agent, and you set that up, and that's about the last time you speak to that person. They turn it into whatever person that they were hired through, and a lot of times no one talks to anybody. So you do not even know if the value is there or not.
Right. Even the lender doesn't know who the appraiser is, and it's designed that way on purpose. Yeah.
So I'm certain that's designed to build more security into the system, to have that kind of level, that firewall, if you will, between the
Yes.
two. What was it like a few years back? Could you choose your own appraiser, and you had maybe a pool of appraisers that you knew were qualified and you could go to?
The bank, I think the bank had
Yeah.
probably an approved or certified list of appraisers that they used, anywhere from 3 to 6 appraisers, local appraisers, but that's not the case now. Now it goes to these third-party companies, and then they assign an appraiser, and then it's ordered. Then it goes back to that third company for approval, and then back out to the lender.
And how much does that impact the timing of the process? Does it slow things down?
They're supposed to have a turnaround time,
Yeah.
but it just depends. And there are certain ones. I mean, there's certain appraisers for conventional, there's certain appraisers for FHA, and there's certain VA certified appraisers.
Yeah.
So you you don't know what that pool is. So.
Your questions are adding to our conversation today on Ask the Realtors on CMU Public Television. Let's go to a question from Manistee. Individual asking if there are any rules for realtors that prohibit them from buying land they own. I don't really understand that. If I'm going to say maybe that's supposed to be selling. So is there anything? Can you sell your own property?
You can't. You have to disclose that
Right.
you're a licensed agent in the state of Michigan, but there's no, not that I'm aware of, anything that states that you can't sell property. So yeah.
Now, what can you tell us at this point about the housing market in Mount Pleasant, let's say, compared to maybe more rural areas? We have many areas in our viewing area that are a little more country oriented, and we hear reports now of more and more people settling in cities. Now, when we hear it, it's often maybe New York or Los Angeles, and yet the point being, it seems people are becoming a little more centralized. Are you seeing that in the requests that you're getting from people to see homes?
I think if they want to be more rural, it's because of the taxes, and so a lot of that. I mean, if it all of this plays into their monthly mortgage, and so I mean, if they're going more, the farther they're going. But then again, you got gas prices that's bringing them back closer to town. So. So I think all of that, I think buyers are savvy and smart, and shopping lenders, shopping agents and brokerages, and shopping homes, and they have a lot to choose from. So.
And they're also, I think, to tag on to that, they're also looking at down the road. If I purchase this home, location of it now, is it going to be saleable in the future? I mean, that's huge. So.
Yeah.
And I just had a question and it escaped my mind. So give me a sense then for how brisk is business right now? I'm looking for maybe the trends you've seen. Yeah, you said we're not supposed to talk about 2007, but so I'm going to say maybe that was
2012 and on. A trend that I've seen is in the last couple of years, you haven't seen a lot of builders spec-in homes, model houses and whatnot. And in the last couple of years in Mount Pleasant alone, the market is, there's whole subdivisions being built. Builders are starting to put their money back in the market and doing very well at it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking huge amount.
Yeah.
really.
So, yes. in the
Waterfront
last-
homes
yes.
as well. Waterfront homes are, another one that it kind of dried up for a little bit. People were either selling their secondary homes or not investing. And now I see more waterfront homes being purchased. So.
Are you seeing more spec homes out there again?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Builders are, definitely putting their money back in the market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good news, isn't
Yeah,
it?
It is.
absolutely.
It's great news.
Yeah.
We have a question from Southfield. What are some things I should consider if I want to refinance?
I guess that's a lender question.
Well, it is. That
Yeah.
really is.
Well, I guess if we look to an issue of home value, a thought that came into my mind is the idea of curb appeal. So you have people looking for refinanced homes, foreclosed homes, to find a great bargain.
Right.
And yet now would also have people looking for that dream home, that perfect home that everyone seems to be searching for at some point in their lives. So, what is it that people should consider? Should they go out and be planting more flowers out front, or you mentioned before the new roof might not bring in as much increase in price as you would hope?
Yep. I think, if you're talking refinancing, it all depends on, I think what Paula said earlier is, where they're at with their mortgage, the payoff, the value of the house today versus, and I think what they're trying to say is, all of that depends on where they, got the mortgage, the interest rate that they got it at, and the interest rate today. Interest rates are still great, 4.5, somewhere in
Oh,
there.
absolutely, yeah.
So, they're a little bit coming up, but, for sure, a great time to buy.
One of the things that we do as Realtors is, and if it's Southfield area, they could call a local real estate company there and have them do a search through the MLS of like-kind properties and find out how their property is valued. So that's something that they could do.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Now we have a question coming in from Twitter, and that is at WCMU Ask The. What should I look for when I'm walking through a home?
The first time you're going to walk through the home, you probably, and most buyers that they're looking at the layout. They're probably not, as detailed. Sometimes it's going to take 2 or 3 times back to that house. The first time they're going to look at, does the space work? Does the room sizes work? Do I like the color of the cabinets in the kitchen? But if they narrow down the list, then I'm sure they'll probably want to go back again. And at that point, they're going to get more detailed. They're going to bring some family and some friends and go from there. So the first time is probably the space and the location.
And so people looking so much at space and location, are they also looking at things like insulation and the integrity of the plumbing and the wiring? You kind of touched on that a little bit, Paula, talking about getting inspectors in.
That's usually the second time around or the
Okay.
third.
Yeah.
And honestly, that happens after an offer has been negotiated, and then you move down to that step. And then you decide, are all those things that you thought were there? And then if they're not, then you need to somehow renegotiate, so to speak.
A question coming in from Claire: has the value of hunting property gone down?
I don't know that the value of hunting property has gone down. The value of agricultural land has gone up.
Yeah.
But the
Huge.
hunting property, especially if it's a nice wooded acreage, I think you're still gonna, I think it's probably holding, where it was. That's also regional. That's also, different in Clare than it is in Mount Pleasant. That it's going to be in Elma. So.
Okay. And from it looks like Gladwin, a question: do realtors appraise how do realtors appraise waterfront property? Is there a kind of rule of thumb that you use?
Well, we don't appraise property.
Well, that's true, right.
Yeah.
We set a value on the property, and from what we see, the market doing. But you always try to find like properties. You always, you probably start on that lake, and if you can't find anything, but you're always looking at bedroom square footage, condition, age, all of those, play a factor in it.
Yeah.
In Bad Axe, we have a question. What does it take to get a realtor's license in the state of Michigan? Someone might be considering joining your ranks.
Hey, there you go. Well, honestly, there's a week of education that they need to have, and they can actually do that online as well as go to a school.
Yep.
Then there's a state
Exam.
State exam.
40
Yeah.
hours in a state exam, and
Yep.
yeah.
Now, besides the training you go through, you both have been in the business for a while now. Do you kind of have a sense when you see a house that, boy, this one's going to go quick?
I think you do. I mean, you know, there's houses that hit the market. I mean, if I could be an investor and have the cash available to me, I mean,
Yeah.
if my wife wouldn't, you know, say no all the time, I think I'd have a lot of houses myself. But we work with a lot of investors, and so I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, you see a house that's gonna, you know, move, you know, price good condition, good location, and yeah, you know, you can tell.
Kind of have a sense for that.
Yeah.
So another question coming in from Twitter, how many homes should I consider before I choose one?
You will know if you really know what you're looking for. You will know it when you see it. I mean, I've had clients that it might have been the first or second home that we looked at, and they're like, "This is it," and I'm like, "Are you sure?" Absolutely. So it really depends on that person.
Do you typically see an average? Most people will look at 4 or 5, or is it that varied?
I think it is very.
I do. I think it's very, very, yeah.
What's the most you've seen?
Wow. I've seen, with one buyer, it's well over 30 or 40 houses. But yeah, I also have to realize that when we first started, the market's changed and I mean, technology's changed.
MLS,
I mean, before you would, you know, put the buyers in your vehicle and you'd go see these houses. It would be a day tour. And now, we're more just the keys to get in. You know, buyers are on the internet. There's all these other websites that they can go to. They know the, you know, the new listings as they hit the market. They're calling us and saying, you know, I've got investors saying, "Hey Jim, did you see this house?" I'm like, "No, not yet," but you know, so I mean, they're very, you know, educated on what's coming on the market. And now you just go out and show them, you know, not as many as you did in the you know, so maybe 4 or 5 sometimes, but in the beginning, yeah, you could be up where 30 houses or more. Yeah.
And we see some shows about people flipping homes. Did that happen in this area?
It
Are
does.
people flipping homes?
Definitely. And I know Jim as well as myself, we'll get calls that say, "That's what I'd like to do."
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. Investors are either going to flip the house or rent the house, and it depends on the numbers. Yep.
Okay, let's go to a question from Yale, Michigan. If someone is in the market for a foreclosed home, should the buyer offer more or less than what the seller's asking? Well, I would think probably not more. So I guess what the question is there much negotiation room on a foreclosed home?
Yeah, and it depends honestly on how long it's been on the market, because a foreclosed home is usually government owned. They don't want to hang on to this inventory. But number one, when it does do that, I mean, you're going to have a certain time frame that it's open for first-time home buyers, where it's going to be their primary residence, and then it's open for investors. So it depends on how long it's been on the market.
So in that sense, it's like any other home.
Yes.
The value is dependent on a lot of factors.
And
it sounds like.
there's also the opportunity that there could be multiple bids on that home if it's been out there for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. We have a question from West Branch. Maybe you could field this one. It might be a little more bankish. What are the pros and cons of starting or getting involved in a land contract? Do you deal with any of those?
Land contracts, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, on the seller side, I mean, it may be another way for that seller to, you know, to get a purchase agreement and to sell their house. And, you know, if done correctly, I mean, a land contract's, you know, like any other tool, it's a great tool to use. It could be.
From Plymouth, a question. Should I use the inspector my realtors suggest or search for my own?
I think most realtors will give you 2 or 3 that they might have had contact with, not so much point you in one direction. And that gives you the option of making your own decision. Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. And what would your main tip be? I'll ask you this for a buyer and for a seller.
The main tip for a buyer, Buyers, like I said, buyers are pretty savvy and pretty smart. They shop online, and for sure. I mean, so buyers are going to know the inventory, and they know what they want, and they have a pretty detailed list, and we try to get them in as many homes as we can to so they understand the market and the values of it. For a seller, sellers, if they price the house correctly in the beginning, it tends to move quicker. And that's the goal, is to sell the house. And so pricing is probably would be my tip for the sellers, is price it accurately, and not you hear this, we'll start here and come down, and it tends to be on the market longer. And if you're going after days on market, pricing it up front at a good sellable, marketable price will move it quicker.
Do most people have a good idea for what the actual value of their home should be on the market?
One of the things that they shouldn't do is go on Trulia or Zillow and try to gauge what that says, because they have always been inaccurate. And I say that only because we've got a lot of people that come to us afterwards, and they're like, well, this is what it says it's worth. And we'll go do our little calculations and run our comparables in the area, and it's nowhere what they thought it was.
We have just a minute left, but let me ask you this in the final moments. What are the benefits for a first-time home buyer? Are there special programs out there still?
Well, up until the government shut down just 2 days ago, the FHA, they still can get a 97.5, so they can still get a really nice percentage down, which is a 3.5%. So they can still get that down, but it is very lender-driven. And so I think that's the biggest thing. Make sure you talk to the banks, and if they have the product for you. So I would say shop around.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. This was a great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
Sam.
your questions this evening on Ask the Realtors. And we invite you to look at our Facebook page for answers of questions that perhaps we couldn't get to tonight, and invite you to join us next week for Ask the Doctors. I'm Amy Robinson. Have a great evening.